take the three and hit it from the top of the key.
Whoever he throws it to now is trying to run downhill.
We want him going right.
That's what the game was. It was pick and roll, throw it, shoot it.
Just rebound, block shots, play with unbelievable energy.
I think everybody is trying to, get better on the defensive end.
So when they get off the bus, they walk in, drop their stuff, get dressed, and then go out to start warming up.
PJ, Reed, EJ, Nick, we need you guys to be really good at catching the ball first.
Travis, here comes the double team. Nice pass underneath with a dunk to Washington. Beautifully played by Reed Travis.
That was a strong double team.
Down the arc, left side, pulls the trigger, hits.
Because you want that ball. He's working to rebound. You work to rebound like him. All right, that's their run. All right.
Trying to hand it back to Hero. He can't. 7 to shoot. Washington has the ball knocked away. Hero chases it down. 3 to shoot. Launches a 3. Bullseye!
But to go on the road and that team make that run, and you do enough to win the game, the shoot around helped us win the game because it got us through what? The first half.
Hey, good job, fellas. They found me on 3. 1, 2, 3.
It's going to be a rainy couple of days here in Kentucky, but at least it is very warm. And a big win for the Cats last night, 9 in a row now after they dispatched South Carolina.
UK has been lights out defensively and made South Carolina look like a hand puppet.
I've got to keep these guys in the right frame of mind, which is, I told them today, my job now is hungry yet humble.
I know how lucky I am to have the job I have. People would line up around the block to do this for sure.
51 hours from tip-off. At the Joe Kraft Center, UK equipment manager Mark Evans begins packing.
We call them their game bags, and they have their specific number on it.
Up to 15 bags of warm-up gear, uniforms, and shoes.
So like this is a custom shoe bag that we carry all their shoes in. And they typically, each player has minimum 2, sometimes 3 pair of shoes in case they have a blowout.
Do you ever have nightmares of forgetting something?
There's definitely the panic of when you're going to the airport and when we're going to Des Moines or somewhere like that, and you're like, well, I hope I got everything, because if we don't, there's a rule of thumb is as long as you've got uniforms and shoes, you can still play a game.
Evans is following in the legendary footsteps of Bill Kitely, equipment manager for 48 years at UK, known as Mr. Wildcat.
There's a lot of talk these days about organic living.
Yeah, well, this is my garden patch that I'm letting go this year.
And the sights of an organic home are all over Derek Nance's backyard.
There's our classic outhouse. And I got compost toilet.
There's a freshwater pond, garden, and chickens. Nothing really unusual.
I think I'm doing something right.
So let's take a look in his freezer and see what you think.
Oh, these are bones. Just chew on it as you need it. Raw is just so much easier for me to digest. And it's really good and really flavorful.
Nance has been eating raw sheep for almost 10 years, slaughters and cuts them himself.
I'll just sit here and chew on one of these for a while whenever I need a snack.
He keeps every part of the sheep.
This is a spleen. I'll hang these to kind of air dry a little.
It takes Nance about a month to eat the whole thing.
Most of the meat off of it first. Sometimes if you hit it too hard, it goes flying everywhere. But yeah, this is the marrow. And just dig it out. Yeah, this is real good.
Is there anything you won't eat?
The bladder. I don't usually ever eat the bladder. It's saturated with the...
Now that you know he's a legit carnivore, let's get to the meat of why.
All right.
Nance grew up with a relatively common childhood illnesses and viruses, but he says his was worse, and by the time he was 20, the symptoms were more severe. He was down to 150 pounds and diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome.
I started studying other people who were into the raw aspect, and they said that the vitamins and nutrients and minerals and everything is more intact raw, and it's better and easier for the body to digest. That's real creamy.
He says it immediately solves his health problems, but he invests a lot of time finding the right sheep for his body.
I go out to the farm and I try to source local, organic, grass-fed, pasture-raised, directly from the source, because I just need to see for myself where the animals come from.
He slaughters the sheep on the farm if the farm owner is okay with it. Otherwise, he kills his food in his backyard.
As far as I know, there's nothing that I'm doing that's wrong, and I've been doing it for the last 10 years.
According to the Lexington-Fayette ordinance, it looks like he's not doing anything illegal. He can slaughter sheep in his backyard because he has a fence up, and he doesn't force his 4 children to eat raw meat either.
My daughters will eat some raw meat, and they like it, and they like drinking eggs and stuff like that, but I don't strictly, push it on them, so they're free to decide.
And that's the thing about Derek Nance. He's not pushing sheep-eating propaganda on anyone, but it's a thing, and he's the proof.
It might work. Or if you wanted to get...
Good luck.
It's a Tuesday night, a battle between 2 teams, and tonight, it's where you'll find Mike Goins.
I go to a game just about every night.
Spot, okay?
But he isn't rooting for any team, he's watching the referees.
Off White's leg, going that way.
You put on the referee shirt, you got to have some thick skin. You know that.
Are we in a position where we won't have high school sports because of the lack of officials?
I think it needs to change. If it keeps going in the direction it's going now, it's hard to say in a few years there won't be enough officials to actually do the game.
Get out of the lane, get out of the lane.
Tonight, Goins picked a varsity doubleheader to sit through, girls first, between Clark and Bourbon counties. This is one of 64 games going on simultaneously in his area.
Jump ball.
Goins is in charge of assigning the officials for each and every game from middle school to varsity.
Well, I had to tell a school today they wanted to add a game tonight and said, no, we don't have any available.
I got to have 2 go.
And that statement is a symptom of the reason for this point-blank op-ed, saying in part, Mom and Dad, cool it.
We need to take a shot across the bow. Let's get everybody's attention. Because otherwise, this thing that we're the only people in the world that do the way we do, which is high school sport, we're going to lose. Because we won't have anybody to referee the games.
Kentucky High School Athletics Association Commissioner Julian Tackett co-wrote the op-ed, saying more than 75% of all high school officials say adult behavior is the reason they hung up the whistle.
I think that we as a society have accepted the fact that not only should you be negative, but you should be negative loudly.
Parents getting fired up and sometimes out of control on officials and coaches isn't new.
Yeah, we need to allow it to Whitney County High School baseball.
What's going on out there, bud?
There's a firing on the coach. We need them now.
I'll get them up there.
There was this full-out disaster of a fight in the early 90s, and in 2009, this dad thinks he must tell the coach his thoughts right then. Watch his son push him away.
Most of the time, what we notice, if you pay a lot of attention to it, you'll see this guy in the stands and he's chirping loudly. If his kid looks up there and catches an eye, drops his head, it's just like, oh my God, that's my dad.
Players can make mistakes, coaches can make mistakes, but an official's mistake is not accepted. We're expected to be perfect and get better.
She walked.
The pressure, they say, is being felt most on the younger officials. In many parts of the state, there are more officials over 60 years old than under 30. Why? Well, the younger ones won't take the trash talk.
When she brought it over her shoulder, she took an extra step.
What I think's missing, and this is my own personal opinion, is there was a time when that did go on and the school administrator stepped up and said, you're not going to do that.
The administrator, the principals, we got to have support from them. And, if we don't feel like we have their back is up, that's not a real good feeling for the officials.
Well, probably because they're scared of the parents.
Well, that's true. And we had a couple of situations where the school administrators, ADs, were afraid to remove the parents because they were afraid of their safety.
If she could make a layup and there was contact, you could get an ambulance.
No, there's no contact whatsoever.
If you haven't been a part of a school-age game lately, you might have forgotten that rush of excitement, of teamwork and integrity. Mike Goins watches it every night. It's a lesson about life for the players on the court. Ironic that the ones hurting them most are their biggest fans in the stands.